next song, Hey, I Don't Know. I wrote this song, and a lot of my songs, I think, tend to come together lyrically and musically separate. You know, sometimes I write the lyrics on my iPhone notes, you know, in the middle of I've written lyrics on a run and then scribbled them down before, and then music, you know, I'll try and come up with a riff or a rhythm or something, and then I find pairing. It's like wine pairing, you know, this lyric goes with this music. So I think lyrically this is, it's about the formation of conscience, you know, in us, and how that plays out, whether in an individual or in a society, and also, you know, depending on your social status, you know, how does conscience apply to, say, a king versus, you know, somebody of the general public? And these kind of ideas were of interest to me at the time. So musically, also, it's got a little bit of the Kwaito thing, but more of a 70s style rock riff with some African influence. You know, we're very hodgepodgey, I think. We find, you know, a pinch of salt, some pepper, some garlic, you know, taking different influences from all the music that we've listened to and putting it into our own custom mix, you know, and I think that could be a little spin-off as our own spice mix, you know. I feel like that's how I think of songs, you know, always food related.
You know, we should sell a 12-jar spice rack with a song, each song having its own mixture. This track, we used to play this, I'd say for like 4 or 5 years, where I played keyboards and did vocoder on it, which is not on the record at all. I guess, no, it's not even on the record, but we just played it that way, or I did that live. And then we finally decided, why don't I just play accordion on it it's on the record?
There is accordion on the record, but it's mixed very low, and it's not a major part of the song. But, you know, when you finally did pick up the accordion in rehearsals and play that riff, it's like, oh, it makes sense, you know.
It was because of the acoustic version. You did the acoustic version of it, and you played the accordion on that, and then we mixed and matched.
All right, I don't know if a lot of our fans know that. We have 3 acoustic versions of these songs out there: Hey, I Don't Know, Sex on the Radio, and Escape. They're up on iTunes and Spotify and everything. If you just search for Lunatic Acoustics, you'll find those 3 versions, and they're completely different.
Yeah, I really like the Hey, I Don't Know acoustic version. It completely puts the song in a different light, and also that's one of my best accordion solos.
I think one of my favorite about this song, one of my favorite lyrics is the victor earns the title, the great, all the mysteries get unlearned, all the history just becomes a string of dates. It's, you know, this idea that depending on who the victor is, they get these different titles. It can either be Alexander the Terrible, Ivan the Terrible, or Alexander the Great. And when you think about the Great at the end of his name, it's as though he was this amazing, you know, leader and did no wrong, when really he also went around the world just slaughtering, raping, pillaging entire cultures and destroying the history of millennia of cultures, when he went to India and he went to, you know, all across the Middle East.
Well, one little fact that I learned, you know, if you read about the library, is it
Alexandria?
The library, Alexandria. Something like 1 million books or parchments were destroyed, and this was thousands of years ago. So if they'd lost 1 million, was it the Roman Empire? I can't remember. I'd have to do a history lesson, but like the idea that 1 million books could be lost, you know, so what was left? You know, we're only left with the scraps. Can you imagine if we had the body of knowledge that was destroyed?
That's a good thing to remember, I think, is if your team is burning books, you're the baddies.
But was it intentionally burned down? I don't know the history of Alexandria. I mean, I know that Alexander probably collected all of those books by
stealing or burning someone else's. Yeah, I think that's what I've always liked about this lyric and this idea. And the artwork also is kind of cool, of just this pawn sitting on a chessboard. It's interesting to think about, like you're saying, conscience in relation to a great leader. How do they determine what's right or wrong, and what is it right or wrong in relation to what? It basically shows how impossible it is to think about that idea of what's right or wrong in history.
The relativity of morality, you know, when you have power, or when you can, you know, flip a switch and it has an effect on 1 million people, you know, it's becomes the dilemma becomes magnified.